Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
That kid is back on the escalator again.
Ain't gonna hurt.
Here's my boomstick!
Game over, man. It's game over.
Welcome to the Bargain Bin. He is your host, Ben Mason.
He is your co-host, Sandro Luketic, and today we're talking 1985's Commando. We assume if you're listening to this episode, you've already seen the movie. And man, what a fucking movie it was.
Ask me. Ask me.
No.
Ask me!
Had you seen this movie before?
Yeah, like 6 times.
Huh, I never would have guessed. Do you like Arnold?
Yeah, I think we talked about it on our last Action Hero review that I, when collecting physical media, had a collection of like 22 of his movies or something like that.
Yeah, no, this was a total throw for you, man. I remember loving this movie growing up, and I assumed it would be one of like your top Arnold selections because it's just so much fun.
I don't know if it would be one of my top Arnold selections, to be honest with you.
Screw you.
I mean, it is a great movie, but like obviously I'm putting Terminator at the top.
The first one?
No, the second one. Sorry, Terminator 2 is like one of my favorite movies. Period. Like not genre specific, time frame specific. Like it's one of my favorite movies ever.
Yeah, it's because it's one of the best movies ever.
Yeah, and then to be honest, like I actually really highly value comedies that he's done, like Twins and Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah.
So, Commando might be top 5, but I don't even know if that would be the case. But it's because he has so many good movies.
What about top 3 action of Arnold movies?
Do I get to count Conan as one?
Oh, yeah.
Then I don't know, because there's still Predator and
Running Man.
I mean, I love Running Man, but I'm not putting it in the top 3 because like there's certain elements that it lacks in regards. I mean, for cheesiness, it's definitely up there. But
okay.
Anyway, we're too many.
Sorry, my bad.
Too many Arnold movies. Why don't we talk about the one that we have in front of us?
Commando. All right. Do you want me to just go right into the notes?
Yeah. That's
all right.
That's how we get into the movie that we're talking about.
I don't know. I've never done this show before. All right. We start with a beautiful sunny morning. Garbage truck approaches its collection neighborhood. The roar of the vehicle awakens Lawson and his wife. In their sleepy days, they agree that it must be the garbage truck and that the schedule must have changed, which is weird if you ask me. Normally there's some sort of notice of that. Anyway, Lawson gets out of bed and drags the garbage to the curb, only to be massacred by the garbage men, one of which is Bill Duke. I don't know if you recognize him from anything.
I recognize him, but I couldn't tell you what he's from.
Predator.
That's right. As soon as you said it, yeah.
And also Mandy, but that's more for me, not you.
Mandy? Is that the Nicolas Cage movie?
Oh, don't say it like you've never pronounced his name before. Yes, the Nicolas Cage movie.
All right, moving on. So he goes for the garbage truck.
Yes, and then they just straight up shoot him to death.
Well, first he says, I was worried that I was going to miss you. Or, no, that you were going to miss me. And he said, don't worry, we won't.
Yeah. I didn't write down every line from this movie because there are so many zingers that it just take up way too much time.
But that's such a big part of the charm of Arnold Schwarzenegger movies.
And yes, it is, because normally he'll throw one or two out there, or you're laughing at his like poor line delivery. But there are so many legit funny one-liners here. And this is me just being like, I'll talk about a couple of them, but I highly suggest everybody watch this movie because it's a fucking blast.
I think I'm clearly showing my excitement here, but I can't tell you how disappointed I was when I bought Red Heat. Because
of Jim Belushi?
No, because if you watch that movie, if you go back and watch it again, there's like no one-liners in that movie.
That's okay. That movie's awesome. I love that movie, man.
It is a good movie. I'm not saying it's a bad movie, but like when you go into it, because I didn't really know all of Arnold's works. When I started to go and collect them, it was after the fact, and I was just looking them up. I hadn't even heard of Red Heat before. So you see a movie like this, where it's zingers across the board, and you watch that movie, you can enjoy the movie and still be disappointed, like, there wasn't a single one-liner in there.
Yeah, well, that's weird because that's all like using the comedian that is Jim Belushi to try and do all of the jokes, and Arnold is basically the fish out of water, being the Russian like KGB agent or whatever he is.
Anyway,
but yeah, I get you.
We're in one scene of the movie.
Sorry. Honestly, man, like I got so engrossed in this movie, I got lost over the fact that I was looking at a bunch of black garbage bags, and I couldn't even remember the last time we were allowed to use those.
I mean, I was even like, the dude's just taking newspaper with him. Haven't you heard of recycling, dude? But
I have a note right here that says, I remember hearing about recycling and being like, what now? Reuse shit? How does that work? That's how old we are.
I love how the garbage truck guys, which aren't really actually garbage men, shoot the guy in the middle of the street in broad daylight, don't stop at any other houses, just throw the guns in the back of the dump truck and drive away. And somehow nobody spotted this.
Oh, there's a lot of people just like turning a shoulder or like a blind eye to everything happening in this movie.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Let's move on to scene 2.
All right. Cut to Bill Duke, who's now dressed in a nice suit, buying a luxury car because he likes Cadillacs. He sits in a floor model before telling the salesman he likes the price, throws it into reverse, and then drives into the man, killing him, crashing through a window and driving off. Next, we cut to a fishing boat. The crew, including Mad Max 2 villain Vernon Wells, hint, hint, is getting ready for a day on the ocean. Bill Duke appears. Wells acknowledges Duke's presence and sets out for a day of fishing. Duke then remotely explodes the boat, and cut to our boy Arnold. Great intro here. Because the most well-known Austrian who isn't Hitler is carrying a massive log on one shoulder and approaching the coolest heavily forested log house we've seen since Abominable.
Can any other actor pull off their introduction into a movie just carrying a tree trunk?
Yeah, I shouldn't say log. Yeah, it's just a tree with the branches cut off of it.
I do want to touch back real quick. I loved the montage of the killings. It sets up the backstory really well, but it doesn't linger on it too much. It gives you a few.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
It gives you a few fun lines. It introduces you to the villains. It gives you a little bit of a swerve there, but we won't get into that spoiler for another 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it like wraps it up really nicely, and then it cuts to Arnold, so you know it's all gonna double back. It was really done, and it didn't linger. I like that.
And the one cool thing I can say about this too is that this is your straight up action film. It's not a smart movie, but they don't let you know who these people are who are being killed. You know there's some connection somehow because of Bill Duke, but like you don't know who these men are until a couple more scenes into the film. So like it actually raises a bit of questions and mystery from the very beginning. And who'd expect quality from Arnold?
Well, I mean, to be fair, we haven't gotten any from Arnold yet.
Yeah, but we are in like I'm Arnold territory here, right?
Yeah.
So far, his biggest movies have been the Conan movies, Terminator, and Red Sonja. He hasn't done all of the big movies everyone knows him for until after this. So it's like this is his like ascent right now. Like we're catching him right before he takes off.
Fair.
This is John Matrix. Oh, I should say, actually, keep in mind, when he did this movie, he was only 37 years old. Anyway, this is John Matrix.
Can we touch on that name for a second?
Yes.
Like, 80s action hero name. Like, it's like they put it in a random generator and were like, give me an 80s action hero name. John Matrix.
This is Max Power.
Like, okay, Homer. But that, like, that's all I can say is, again, you're not pulling this off in 9 out of 10 other movies.
And it's a fucking iconic image, too, of him in that green shirt. I always remembered that green shirt. Okay, maybe that's a me thing. Anyway, moving on.
I remember the like tree trunk on his shoulder, but sure.
There is that too. He's splitting the tree into firewood and catches a reflection in his act of somebody sneaking up on him from the rear. But psych, it's only his daughter Jenny, played by Alyssa Milano.
I thought that was done so well. Because they blurred they blurred the reflection just enough that if you didn't know, because they don't show his daughter yet in any of the movie, that you could think someone's sneaking up on him. It's not the most obvious twist. It's not the most subtle one either. I thought that was done well enough because I actually rewound it back to see if the reflection in the axe was a little bit more telling, and it is hard to make out any sort of figure from it.
Yeah. I don't know. This whole opening scene is weird.
Okay.
No, just with him, like when it's him, like, you know, splitting the firewood. She sneaks up on him, and then like he scoops her up, and we get a weird opening title montage of her jamming ice cream in his face, and then him teaching her martial arts.
I gotta say, this was probably the low light of the movie for me.
Well, the man's muscles are so big that he can't pat himself on the back. I highly doubt he's doing any type of martial art.
Yeah, and I love Arnold for many reasons. His 1980s ability to portray the emotional connection of a parent to his child is not one of them. Because this montage felt so unnatural. And you mentioned it, like the slamming the ice cream in his face or whatever. Like,
and the look in his eyes is like he's trying to hold back from just ripping her face off.
Yeah, like he's not selling it.
And then the next they're hand feeding deer in the wild.
Common activity. That's a common.
Then they're creek fishing and then playing in a swimming pool. And the music makes no sense. Like it's 80s action drums and pan flutes.
It doesn't get any better.
Oh, it does though. That's the best thing about this movie. It starts off with intrigue, then a spattering of what the fuck, and then it just gets good and stays good the whole time.
No, I meant this part of the movie doesn't get better yet. Because then then we cut out of the montage to when she's
fucking trust me, I have this shit written down.
Okay, that's what I was referring to. Move forward.
When they sit down for breakfast?
Breakfast or lunch or whatever.
Yeah, they sit down for food, a meal anyway. And Arnold's flipping through Cream magazine. Is this what you were talking about?
This whole scene, yeah.
Fuck, man. He asks Jenny why Boy George isn't called Girl George and says that it would cut down on all the confusion.
Yep.
It's like, dude. And when he was a boy in East Germany and rock and roll arrived, communists said it was subversive, and he ponders that they might have been right. Like,
And then
he takes a bite of the sandwich.
Yep.
And asks what's in it. She says he doesn't want to know.
That's the part I wanted to point out. It's a sandwich. You want to know what's in it? Open it.
Look at the fucking sandwich. I don't know, but the look in his face was, I don't know. But his face does immediately tighten as we hear the whir of rotor blades of an approaching helicopter. Ooh, more intrigue.
I'd like to point out...
like comedy. It's kind of a bit of levity that would be needed in between slaughtering random individuals and what we know is going to be the follow-through of an action film.
I get that they're trying to humanize him because he's not just a military killing machine.
Humanize him by allowing him to carry a fucking tree with one arm? This guy's just like me.
No, but
I can do that.
He's a regular family man with a mother that's nowhere to be seen and never explained where she is.
Never mentioned. For all we know, he abducted this girl. He's like, you're my daughter now. What's your name? Jenny Matrix.
What's your name? Ariel. I don't like that. You're Jenny now.
Go to your room or the deer will get you.
But this is like the extent of where the like really bad parts of the movie for me ended. Because from here on out, it gets good.
Oh yeah. Jenny pleads with her father not to go anywhere since he said he was done with the military. He promises her he isn't going anywhere. The chopper lands and a high-ranking military officer emerges, directing his men to take their posts. Now, I know his name is Kirby, but it really sounds like he says his name is Pervy. Seems really fitting when you look at his face. Sorry, actor that I won't name. Matrix sneaks up on his old commander, and we see the two are still in good spirits. This changes, though, when Kirby tells John that somebody is killing his old team. Bam! Now we know who they were, one by one, and he's sure they'll find John, too. He should rest assured, though, Kirby is making two of his best men stay back and protect John and Jenny. And at this point, from what we've seen in this movie, you know these people are not sticking around.
No.
Fuck no.
One of them makes it further than I thought.
And basically, I'm pretty sure he's only upright because he's leaning against something. He's already dead. As Kirby boards the chopper and it flies off into the distance, John's face grows stern and then wild. He grabs Jenny and shields her as a gunman opens fire from the tree line. I thought that was a really cool scene. But this is what we're talking about right here. The two protectors, Jackson and Harris, are shot instantly, and John and Jenny run inside. It turns out the gunman was upwind and John could smell him, which is really weird.
Really weird. Because here's the thing. Before that, the camera pans on like some like foresty tree parts of like the landscape. Yeah. And I even rewound it back to see like, do they show anything? Like the barrel of a gun, like a red, dot, anything at all to show visually. They don't. So
no, of course not. You're giving it way too much credit.
So they pan, but then why even pan over the forested part to like mislead you into thinking that you're going to see something, only for then Arnold to tell you, no, you weren't supposed to see anything. I smelled it. It's like, listen here, buddy, that doesn't come through on the television screen.
Yeah, I don't know. It's almost like it was an establishing shot that they just used in the editing process.
Like if right at the very like the last second of the cut they show anything, a barrel of a gun sticking out of the tree, anything, then that panning shot makes sense. Otherwise, no point.
Yeah. I'm not going to get into it, man. There's way too much more to go through.
Yeah, we're not very far into the movie.
We're not. Jenny goes to her bedroom and John heads to the shed to get his gun. Turns out his gun is in quite the gun locker, filled with all sorts of firepower, which I thought was really cool. Really cool looking, and it just really establishes like how badass this guy was at some point in his life. Mm-hmm. But he only arms himself with a pistol and rifle.
Can I make a comment here that really stood out in my mind?
Mm-hmm.
So this is a former military man who has this secured shed with all of these firearms and stuff. He's clearly in like, whatever they call it, witness protection or, like a new identity type situation. If they had the tech to give him that gun locker, why couldn't they have built like a safe room into the house? Like in the basement?
That's a very good question.
Because if at that point Jenny could have locked herself in a safe room using the same tech as the gun shed, instead of hiding under her bed, this movie wouldn't have lasted very much longer.
No, I know. But maybe it's because he's just so agile that he figured he'd be able to take out anybody who even tried to get into the house. Because Jenny, like you said, she's hiding under her bed and sees like a booted figure come in looking for her. But John's immediately on the roof somehow. We see him grab two guns and then he's on a roof.
Well, because the one side of the house, it's like on a hilled part, right?
Oh, that's right. Because there's a door there that he opens. Yeah,
and that's where the other guy who had survived a minute longer falls out dead. Yeah.
Inside the house is Diaz, played by Gary Carlos Cervantes, who informs Matrix that Jenny has been taken, but is fine. Diaz's people want to do business with Matrix, and she'll be returned when he cooperates, right?
Wrong.
Matrix blows him away.
I love that scene. I absolutely loved it. Because first of all, he's holding the heart that says, "I love you, Dad," that they show in the montage with Jenny, right?
Yeah. The like paper craft that Jenny made for him.
Which is a beautiful touch, because like they made a point to show it in like the montage and the sandwich scene, and it plays back to it here, right?
Yeah.
And then in so many movies in this situation, right, you're going to go with the negotiation. I can't think of another movie where the guy's just like, no, I'll figure it out myself, and just shoots the guy.
It must have happened somewhere, but it's not done nearly as well as this.
Yep.
This is incredibly memorable. Matrix runs outside and sees his truck engine and brakes have been fucked with. He throws it in neutral and hops inside as it rolls over a hill. I do remember this from watching it as a child. It's like, this is crazy. Like, what if he hits a tree?
He doesn't care.
No, he doesn't care. And he doesn't somehow. In a forest with no gas or brakes.
He
doesn't even fucking try and turn the wheel. He just sits behind it. And the truck just misses everything.
Clearly he's memorized the path that he's followed as he's cutting down tree trunks.
Oh yeah, bring it back, man. That's what he's been doing the whole time. It's his escape route. He's committed to catching up to the people who kidnapped his daughter. Unfortunately, he wrecks before he hits them and escapes before the car explodes. Now, there's one thing I thought about watching this. I'm like, they're freaking out as they're trying to get away from Matrix. Being like, he's coming at us. He's gonna try and ram us. Like, well, hit the brakes. Just stop. Just stop driving.
That would be a great scene. It'd be like something out of the Looney Tunes where they just hit the brakes and you see the truck in front of them drive past and off a cliff.
That's exactly what would have happened. Because he's not going to steer and drive through trees to hit you. It's not like he can just fly. Anyway, never mind. Anyway, a fight breaks out and Matrix is subdued. Now we get a surprise heel turn. Bennett is alive. He shoots Matrix with a trank and we fade to black.
I mean, obviously it wasn't a very deep hidden twist, but they did a good job, like in the bedroom with Jenny, just showing the boots, right?
Yeah.
It was a good reveal that, to be honest, with how little time they had to build that up, was well done.
My only problem with that, though, is when we see Bennett on the fishing boat in the beginning, and he looks up and sees Bill Duke. What's his character's name? Anyway, it doesn't matter. I have it written down later.
Cool.
He nods at him.
Yeah.
So, like, acknowledging the presence, he nods and then continues about his thing. And then we get the explosion. I
also found that when he nods at Cook, and then like drives away on the boat, and this is again another time I had to rewind it. There really wasn't enough time for him to escape anywhere. Like, that explosion happens so fast.
Can you imagine Duke fucked up and killed him?
Yeah, it would hit the button way too early.
Fucking gets out of Dodge. Matrix awakens tied to a table. Standing above him are Bennett, Sully, and I never really heard the proper pronunciation of this guy's name, but it's almost like they were calling him, at one point, Enrique, even though it's spelled Henrique with an S. And sometimes it's called Henriquez.
I don't think it matters.
I'm just going to call him Henry.
Don't get too attached to any of the villains, my friend.
Yeah, that's true. And also we have Arius, warlord who Matrix thought he had once brought to justice. He wants Matrix to kill a country's president. What's the country again? Valverde.
Yes, Valverde.
Yes. This president, Matrix helped by thwarting Arius in the first place. Matrix refuses, and the villains reveal Jenny tied to a chair and threaten to kill her. If Matrix doesn't do what they want, Arius will mail Jenny to him in pieces. Kirby and crew have returned to the Matrix house and assess the situation. The guy who plays Kirby just sucks.
Okay.
Like, it seemed like a really half-ass attempt at doing the Colonel from First Blood. You watch Rambo movies? No.
No.
Okay.
No, I haven't.
You should probably get on that. Bennett drops Matrix off at the airport. Sully makes sure he'll get on the flight, and Henry will stay on the plane to ensure he arrives. When Matrix asks Bennett how much they're paying him, he says they offered him $100,000. But when he found out he'd get his hands on Matrix, he said he'd do it for free. That's a great villain line, man.
It is a great villain line, but the only thing that came in my mind is only $100,000.
I'd be like, even then, I'd be like, yeah, okay. I wouldn't be like, if they're starting off at $100,000, you could ask for more, but don't be like, nah, man, just keep your money. Because he's got expenses too, right?
I guess, but I mean, like, the line would have worked regardless what the amount of money was. In my mind, this guy is trying to become, Arius is trying to, like, get back rule of a country. You have to imagine he's got more money to offer than $100,000. Especially not to, like, random henchman X. This is the right-hand man.
Yeah.
You could have said, like, how much did he offer you? $1 million. But I said if I could get my hands on you, it would be for free. Like, in my mind, I was like,
he's also not the smartest guy in the world. So I could easily see the line being like, first they offered me $100,000 and I was like, sure. Done.
That was their starting off point in the negotiation, assuming he's going to barter up, and he's like, I'll do it for free. Well,
Fuck, all right.
that was easier than we thought.
Sure. If anyone catches you, you never met us.
Can I point out that Arius is played by Dan Hedaya?
Dan Hedaya, yeah.
Hedaya?
The one and only.
And I know this doesn't happen for me very often, but I definitely recognized him.
Okay.
That's it. Just,
From?
Well, he was a dad in a bunch of comedies, like Clueless and Night at the Roxbury. But like he's just one of those, at least to me, he's one of those that guys, you know?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You see him in a lot of stuff. So anyway, we get to the airplane scene.
No, this is the second time in film history we get the "I'll be back" line from Arnold.
Oh, right, because it does show up in a lot of movies.
Yes. They walk through the airport, and Sully's running his mouth, as always. He gives Matrix his ticket and some cash, telling him to have a few beers when he arrives, since it will give everyone a little more time with his daughter. Fucking sick villain line. Matrix tells Sully he's a funny guy, and that he likes him, and that's why he's going to kill him last.
My only issue with this line is the thing that he just said wasn't funny. It was creepy as hell.
Oh, yeah, super creepy. And incredibly threatening. But, I don't know. Arnold humor.
Yeah.
Sully watches as Matrix and Henry board the plane, and we get Chelsea Field as the flight attendant, who has almost no lines, but I love this person. Do you recognize her from anything?
I think she played the stewardess in Commando.
Yes. But she also played Tila in the Masters of the Universe movie, Catherine in Prison, Darla from Death Spa, Virginia Slim in Harley Davidson in The Marlboro Man, Sally Hollenbeck in The Last Boy Scout, and Annie Pangborn in The Dark Half. I love all of those movies, man.
I have seen none of them.
Except for Masters of the Universe.
I haven't seen any of the movies you just listed.
You haven't seen...
No.
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 I've seen any of
And
these.
whatever you're about to answer, if it's from that list that you just said, no.
No, I just went through the list again. I was like, there's no fucking way. So these are my movies, not his movie.
Exactly.
Anyway, the two find their seats. Matrix asks for a pillow and blanket. As they prep for takeoff, Matrix kills Henry, covering him with a blanket and putting the pillow behind his head. Finally, he puts Henry's hat over his face before telling Chelsea Field not to wake his friend. He's dead tired. Boom! Arnold joke.
Yeah.
Oh God.
What?
Some of these are hilarious, and some of them are so like sigh-worthy. They're almost funny.
Okay.
Somehow Matrix knows the inner workings of a commercial airplane and shimmies his way through to the landing gears, eventually escaping the plane as it takes flight. I don't know how he survived that fall. I mean, even a swamp, it's gonna hurt when you hit from that high.
Yeah, and it felt weird that, like, the landing gear area was, like, closed off by, I don't know, like a tarp? Like,
Yeah.
something
I found
that
weird too. He just ripped his way through.
yeah, like some sort of fabric material that he just tore through. That doesn't seem very secure. I don't know the machinations of a plane, so maybe that's accurate, but I would have thought that it would be something a little bit more sturdy.
Well, we're also talking airline safety in 1985. Who knows?
We should also point out the important plot point is that he did also ask how long the flight is, so that he could set his watch to know that. And I think this adds a nice sense of urgency to the plot. How much time before the plane would land that he knows that he has to work, like, covertly. I thought that was a nice touch.
He sets the watch for 11 hours. And the revenge mission begins. Arius gets a call from Sully letting him know that Matrix is cooperating. He relays the info to Jenny, and she tells him that Matrix is going to smash his face in. You know, for as little screen time and dialogue that Alyssa Milano gets in this movie, she does pretty well.
Yeah, man. I'm biased. I don't know. Go on.
Why? Who's the boss?
I mean, Alyssa Milano was like my original childhood crush. So, yeah.
Oh, okay. I guess, yeah. It's not the first time I've heard that from someone.
Yeah, you probably heard it from me. When everybody was going on and on about Kelly Kapowski, I was all about Alyssa Milano.
Christina Ricci. Matrix is back at the airport. Time to find Sully. Sully's creeping on Cindy, a flight attendant played by Rae Dawn Chong, who is the daughter of Tommy Chong.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. She's on the phone telling a friend of a flight delay, and Sully attempts to put the moves on her. She shuts him down, but he won't let up. And she walks off, and Sully follows. Matrix is only a few meters behind them.
I mean, she's not talking to a friend. She sounds like she's talking to like a boyfriend. And
it could be.
And even Sully, like when she gets off
I didn't want to make that assumption.
And even when she gets off the phone, Sully like makes comments like, "Oh, he doesn't appreciate you. Let me show you something." It's like, "Geez, Sully, you are a creepy dude."
He even has that creepy face. He looks like that little rascal guy from Warrior.
From what?
The Warriors? Not like the little rascals, but like the tiny guy with the ratty hair from Warriors with the bottles on his fingers.
I don't know.
Fucking shock. Sully follows Cindy into the parking garage and becomes super aggressive before accepting the rejection and storming off. Matrix basically abducts Cindy, telling her he isn't going to hurt her. He makes her get into the driver's seat of her car and rips out the passenger seat, then instructs her to follow Sully. And that is one tiny red convertible. The seat is out, and Arnold's head still rises above the windshield, which really made me wonder where it would be if he were sitting in the regular seat.
He's not that big of a guy, man. He's a lot shorter than they make him out to be. He might still be sitting on a seat.
Right. How tall is Arnold?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I think he's like 5'10", 5'11".
Okay. Wow, I was way off.
I'll have to look it up, but I'm sure that was one of the times where I was like, oh, that's movie like angles and stuff like that type thing.
I'm very curious to find this out. I swear I thought he was like 6'2", 6'3".
Well, what I do want to say is I find it interesting that Sully, who's hitting on Cindy so hard, when she rejects him and he gives up relatively easy for how aggressive he's being, he chooses to call her a whore and walks away. It's like, that's the exact opposite of why you're upset with her. But okay.
Yeah, she takes a lot of weird comments in this movie from different people. Definitely showing a common perspective in the 80s in America, specifically California.
Sure.
They follow Sully in his yellow Porsche to the parking garage of the Sherman Oaks Galleria.
Oh, I was wrong. He's 6'1".
Okay. All right, so he's my height. That's fine. I'll take that as a win.
Sure.
But yeah, agreed, the best mall in all film history, yes? Sherman Oaks Galleria? Don't say you don't know.
I mean...
What? This mall stands out in every movie I've ever seen it in.
Was it in Chopping Mall?
Yes.
Was it really?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. I just figured I'd take a guess of a movie that was in a mall.
Yeah, no, that was filmed there. Also, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Valley Girl, Night of the Comet, Back to the Future Part 2, Terminator 2, Phantom of the Mall, Eric's Revenge, Inner Space. You already said Chopping Mall. And there's others too, man. Like, those are just some that I picked.
Jeez, I just named a movie that took place in a mall. That, to be honest, I don't really notice that stuff. They're in a mall. That's kind of it for me, right? Like,
it's just, for me, it's really strange architecture in the mall, like weird narrow walkways that just kind of jut out over like, not courts, but you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, like I noticed that in Fast Times. I noticed it in Chopping Mall. It's also like the most 80s looking mall I've ever seen. So it just fits in all these movies, which, you know what, man, they're all fucking 80s movies. Anyway, moving on, my bad. Matrix and Cindy follow Sully inside. Matrix tells Cindy about what's going down, and Sully is the only way he can find his daughter. He needs Cindy to follow him and hit on him so he can be lured into awaiting Matrix's attack, and she reluctantly agrees. She follows Sully into a bar and spots a police officer or security or something. It seems weird that the police would just be hanging around, but they also seem a little bit higher up than security. Anyway, she tells him about Matrix abducting her, and he goes to check it out.
I think it's like glorified security.
Okay. I guess technically we'll go with mall cop.
Yeah, like I think it was just like it's meant to be security, but that it's bumped up for movie purposes to seem bigger.
Yeah. Also inside the bar, Sully meets with some shady dude and buys counterfeit passports or something off of him. I'm not entirely sure what he was buying, but it looked like legal documents.
Yeah, it looked like passports to me.
Yeah. The officer calls for his partner to help him out with the wacko John Matrix. Partner calls for backup. Oh yeah, here we go. Suspect is 6'2", brown hair, one gigantic motherfucker. Great description. Sully notices Cindy in the bar and decides to make another move. She leaves and sees Matrix. The police approach him and ask what he's doing. He says he's waiting for something unintelligible. I couldn't hear him. Looking at Cindy as Sully grabs her arm. The police try to arrest Matrix, but he beats the shit out of them. Sully spots the commotion and freaks out at the sight of Matrix. He aggressively roots through Cindy's bag, looking for a quarter to call Arius. You remember life before cell phones, man?
Dude, I was going to make the same comment. This would play out so differently if they didn't have to use a payphone.
I know. I loved it, though, man. Like, this scene really works based off of dated technology.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to point out that in the bar, Sully has maybe my least favorite line in the movie. Which,
I don't know. What is it?
And it plays on to how much of a, like, skis he is, but he says in the bar when he's, like, meeting with the guy that he's going to purchase from, that, and they're mentioning how, like, the bar has changed. I don't know if it's become more family friendly or whatever. It's a bar in the mall. I don't know what you're expecting. But Sully says, this used to be a great place to hunt Slash.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah, I remember cringing at that line.
And at that point, I was like, oh, Sully, you are such a creepy dude. But for what they're going for, it works.
Oh, yeah, the character fits in this movie perfectly.
Oh, I mean, if there's a character that they want you to feel like he's a sleazebag, mission accomplished, man.
Yeah. I feel like, for the most part, the characters in this movie are successful in their portrayals.
Oh, yeah. Casting is done fantastically. Everybody plays their role the way they should.
No, we'll get to that.
Okay. I mean, I'm not saying everybody plays the role...
Man, I've started this sentence 4 times now.
I was just going to say, not everybody plays their role that they're supposed to well. They just play the role that they're supposed to. Anyway, go on. Go on. Hey, man, just start your line already. Why are you dragging this on?
Matrix jumps from a walkway to a stairwell, all while dodging gunshots from Sully, who is desperately trying to call Arius from a phone booth. Matrix rips the booth out of place and flips it over, and then fights numerous police officers, or security, sure. The shady dude Sully dealt with opens fire for some fucking reason, and the police kill him.
He didn't need to get involved at all. If I was that guy, I was like, all right, I got my briefcase of money. I'm out of here.
Yeah, he just throws himself into a gunfight.
Just really likes guns, dude.
I guess, and fake passports. Sully flees but keeps shooting behind him, missing Matrix but hitting police. And this is not the only time this happens. Like, Matrix is just... It's like bullets are allergic to him.
Yeah, that's military training for you, buddy.
I guess. Cindy throws a cop down the stairs in an attempt to save Matrix. John grabs some weird balloon thingy and swings onto the top of the elevator in which Sully is trying to make his escape. Sully does make it to the Porsche, and Matrix is in pursuit in Cindy's red convertible. Ever the gentleman, though, Matrix stops to pick up Cindy before continuing the chase.
Could have left her. I mean, she had served her purpose in accordance to what he thought, but...
Yeah. I honestly don't know why he would stop for her. She's not really involved in any way. She successfully, I would say, tried to, like, obstruct the police or mall cops from getting to him. He's already destroyed her car.
Yeah.
And, like, why bring her along? Like, so far, almost everybody he's dealt with is dead.
She also clearly reported him to those cops initially, so...
Yeah.
I guess forgive and forget. Move forward?
Sure. Well, they catch up to Sully and somehow avoid his gunfire again. Sully's run off the road, flipping the Porsche, and Matrix and Cindy drive directly into a telephone pole, smashing in the front of the car. Despite not wearing seatbelts, neither of them move in the slightest. Cindy doesn't even have a seat since it's already been ripped out by Matrix. But if you watch that scene, they don't move. The entire front of the car is destroyed, and they stay in place during the impact.
Military
Really
training,
fucking
dude.
weird. Her, though?
Flight attendant training. You know, those planes have a lot of turbulence. You got to get used to being stationary.
Good point. Didn't think about that. All right. Matrix searches Sully and finds a motel room key. He picks up the little man with one arm dangling over a cliff. Sully tries to barter with Matrix for his life, but John knows everything he needs to, and with one of the greatest lines of the movie, say the line, Sandro.
No. Not here to entertain you.
Yes, you are.
Remember when I said I was going to kill you last? That's right.
Matrix, you did.
I lied.
And Matrix drops Sully to his death.
And then, wonderful. When he goes back to Cindy and she asks him what happened with Sully, he says, I let him go.
I let him go. Yeah, that's after he rolls the Porsche back onto its wheels and they pop in. The one weird thing here is that Matrix then explains to Sydney the situation again.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's like an error in editing, but she already knows.
Well, he goes into more detail with it. It's still pretty unnecessary, but it is meant to just kind of show that he's like opening up to her a little bit more.
Oh yeah, it's that fantastic acting. We see Arius and Bennett put Jenny in an empty room of a mansion and lock the doors. Cindy and John go search the motel. Cook arrives, and they have to improvise. Matrix turns the shower on, rips open Cindy's shirt, and tells her to pretend she's there with Sully. Cook forces his way into the room, and he and Matrix tussle, destroying multiple rooms before Cook dies. Remember what we said about people, like, turning a blind eye to things?
You mean the couple in the other room who clearly don't report anything that just took place?
Or anybody in the motel who would have heard that hand cannon just randomly firing off. That is the loudest fucking handgun I've ever heard.
I actually had to like count how many shots he took. And it was 5, but then I looked it up and some revolvers do have
they have 5. 5 shell barrels.
5 or 6. I always thought it was 6, which is why I went to go look it up, but I guess it can be 5. So it makes sense that Cook, who, pretty cliche movie moment, has, John Matrix at gunpoint and goes to pull the trigger and he had run out of bullets.
Yeah. Okay. See, they search Cook's car here, and Cindy finds a receipt for a fuel company that supplies small private planes. They immediately assume this is a major clue, which of course it is because 80s, and they go check it out. Now, the weird thing to me here is this is the 3rd car Matrix has stolen.
Okay.
In a very short amount of time.
Okay.
And I don't know why. Like, why is this... Like, it's okay, so 4 busted up cars, basically. Because they fucked up his car. He fucked up Cindy's car. Fucked up Sully's Porsche. And I guess they don't really fuck this car up. Anyway.
No, this is the first car that they have access to that's in like good shape with no seats torn out or anything like that. The part that stood out to me was, one, the couple having sex in the other room, which is like your gratuitous nudity shot, which you have to have in an 80s action movie. Like, didn't feel the need to report this to anybody. I guess they just got back to business. And then 2, when Cindy goes to search the glove compartment and finds the receipt, it's at the very front of the glove compartment, and she reaches past it first to make it look like she's digging around, only to then pick up the receipt that's clearly in the front of the glove compartment on its own. You couldn't have just put it in the back?
I guess, yeah, that's just... Someone fucked that up, and that's just her acting, trying to cover it.
Yeah. And if that's the case, don't even make it look like you're rooting around. Just open it up and pick up that first piece of paper that's clearly standing out on its own. It's like, you remember when you used to watch like really old cartoons?
Yeah.
Like Looney Tunes and stuff? And there would be one part of the backdrop that was clearly colored a more visible color, and okay, that one is going to interact.
definitely that is going to be moving very soon.
That's what this was like. She opens the glove compartment, and there's this one piece of paper right at the front. I'm like, okay, that's going to be the clue. But she ignores it to first root around the back of the glove compartment and then pick it up. It's like, it's a little thing. I'm nitpicking. Whatever. Let's move forward.
No, dude, like everything in this movie is so fucking convenient. Like, we can't be surprised at this, but yeah, it's almost inept.
I'm just saying, it can be convenient. It would be convenient if they opened the glove compartment and the very first thing they saw was the thing they were looking for.
Yes.
But why try to mask that? Like, just embrace it. This is what you're doing.
I love that this is the biggest problem you've had with this movie so far.
I mean, I have... okay.
They arrive at the rundown building and Matrix breaks a massive chain with his hands to get in through the gate. I found that very weird. That's a massive, massive chain, and he just pulls it apart.
Ben, you just said it. Convenience.
Yes. Well, he climbs up through a window and spots a small army inside, all cleaning and prepping guns and tanks and other equipment. He sneaks through the warehouse and into an office, and then he jimmies a window open and helps Cindy inside. Why?
How? Is what I want to know. We're led to believe this office is not on the ground floor.
Yes, we are led to believe it is on the ground floor.
We are?
Yeah.
Did I miss that part?
Yeah, because he shimmies down.
Oh.
Yeah. But why the fuck would he bring her inside? He's already putting her in danger by picking her up for, like, the chase with Sully. Now he's, like, dragging her into a warehouse that's filled with an army?
She was very good at finding the obvious clue in the glove compartment. So obviously for solving mysteries, she's going to be handy.
Yeah, well, they get that weird map thing. Matrix somehow figures out exactly where Jenny is being kept, a small island. But they also discover where the plane's being kept. And they go there, but first they have to stop to gather up some firepower.
It's amazing that they also knew that that island was the case, was where they needed to go, because the fuel receipt was for the exact amount of fuel you need to get there and back.
But that's because Cindy has been taking flying lessons, and she would know that.
Seems like an odd thing to know. I can't pump gas into my car and know exactly how far I'm going to get there and back.
Yep. Plus, I mean, this is jumping ahead very slightly, but when they get to the plane, she doesn't know anything about it because she only knows how a Cessna works. So different planes are going to have different fuel consumption, yes?
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Oversight, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, look at the movie, man. It's too much fun to harp on right now.
You know what? The next bit of scenes is going to get really action heavy. Why don't we take this...
You're so far through the notes because I'm just like, action, action, action.
Why don't we take a quick breather before we get into the action to hear a message from our friend Tim?
Knights and Nerds is not just an actual play D&D podcast with an original campaign being played by a group of friends who tolerate each other. It's also a podcast where I, the Dungeon Master, talk about how I'm adapting to the choices the players make, as well as revealing to you, the audience, the complex story and deadly twists that I have in store for my players. Find us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, or at knightsandnerds.com.
And we're back. All right, Ben.
Yes.
I'm fairly certain that from this point on, it doesn't get very slow.
Accurate. It's a very accurate guess. It does not.
I think the slowest scene after this might be just traveling scenes.
I'm pretty sure the slowest part after this is the credits.
All right, so they go shopping at... I know I'm taking over your notes here, but at a surplus store that seems to be the most heavily artillery-based store I can imagine for a surplus store.
It's like fucking Costco for guns.
Why couldn't they have at the very least, called it a military surplus store? At the very least.
Idea.
It would still be odd that they would have an entire back room of like an army's worth of ammunition, But at least then you'd be like, okay, well, the military uses that. I'm sure the military has other sources for this stuff, but it is ridiculous. Like, they get a rocket launcher there. Can you imagine
Drive a fucking bulldozer through the front of the fucking store? And then take, like, everything.
It is convenient that they found the surplus store that was right next to the construction site so that they could have a bulldozer to go through the window. But based on what we saw at the warehouse, Arnold could just break a door open because, I mean, no door is going to be stronger than that lock he just ripped apart.
No. And the thing is, like, they show every single gun that he takes, and, like, it's a super, like, beautiful 80s style montage. But they're shocked when the police show up. Like, what were they expecting? They drove a bulldozer through a wall of a store that sells heavy artillery, just not assuming that there would be an alarm of any sort, or that anybody would hear a bulldozer go through a building. And don't plan for police to arrive. But they do before they're done, and Matrix is put in the back of a police wagon and driven away. You know, I almost said paddy wagon, and then I thought, that sounds like it could be offensive.
And yet you still said it.
Yeah. So I'm curious about that. Do you think that's an offensive term? Do you know anything about it?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, I had to look it up because I'm like, it's not a term you hear anymore. And a lot of people still think that it's an abbreviated form of patrol wagon, which it could be. A lot of people think it was created in the mid-1800s when over half the people arrested were Irish. And that's the direction I was going. I was like, Anyway, I'm just curious. A little bit of a history. I wonder if that's why you don't really hear that term.
Boring.
Understood.
I don't need a history lesson. What's a good way to jump back into the action of this movie?
Cindy following the van?
Not enough action. Can we up it from there?
Well, she pulls up next to the van in Cook's car, and the police immediately be a prostitute and start flirting with her.
There's so many thirsty people in this movie.
Yeah, man.
But no,
They
that's...
drive off and watch in the rearview mirror as she stands up in the car, picks up a rocket launcher, and accidentally fires it backwards, shooting the rocket behind her, causing an explosion, before righting herself and firing it into the van. Seems like a surefire way to kill Matrix, but okay.
Especially when your aim is that reliable that you don't know what end it shoots out of.
Yep. I do love, though, that they showed it, like, when she fired it properly, it threw her into the back seat of the car.
And yet, when she shot it behind her, which you would assume would have the same velocity, just going in the other direction, she stands...
Can you imagine if it just threw her over the windshield and onto the hood of the car and then onto the pavement?
It should have, based on what we saw.
It really should have. That would have just fucked her up to the point where she's no longer in this movie.
We're supposed to assume that the kickback didn't hit her until the second time? She should have been...
Dude, like, even, like, after, like, in the rubble, Matrix climbs through a hole in the van. It hits the wheel, mind you, and knocks the van over, which looks fucking awesome. But, like, he climbs out through a hole that it left, and we're just left to assume that the police are dead.
It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't, apparently. Well, we cut to Arius and Bennett discussing the plan, confirming that Matrix will not get his daughter back.
Yeah.
Jenny searches the room looking for an escape, but the doors are locked and the windows are boarded up. I cut you off there. What were we going to say, my friend?
I don't know.
All right, good enough. Matrix knocks out dock workers and security. He and Cindy try to steal the seaplane. The engine won't turn over, so Matrix punches it, and now everything works just fine. A few seconds later, they're airborne.
I like how he does the cliche, like, works every time after he just punches the circuitry to get it to start.
Also, how would he learn that? What's every time? Is it like his TV conks out, or like the toaster isn't working properly? He just punches the shit out of it, and he's like, yeah.
I mean, he was like this covert op in the military. I'm sure he's stolen planes before. And I mean, in this movie, he's stolen and wrecked like 4 cars. clearly he steals a lot of machinery. You know, I think there was a deleted scene before they broke into the surplus store where the bulldozer wouldn't start. And he just started smacking it until it turned on.
Oh, God. This is a fun movie, though. We can't deny it. There's no hiding it.
Oh, just wait until my recommendation when I say no one should ever watch it.
Oh, yeah, I saw that one coming. Wicked cameo from Bill Paxton, though, as a Coast Guard comm officer, warning them to change their course or they'll be shot down.
I completely forgot about this.
And me too.
And when I saw it, I was like, oh, sweet, Bill Paxton. Even I know who that is. And then that's all you see of him.
Yeah. Hey, man, he's the only person to have been killed by a Terminator, a Predator, and an alien.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, he was in the first Terminator film. He was one of the punks at the beginning. And he was... Fuck. Which Predator movie? Must have been 2.
I would imagine it was probably 2. I don't think he was in the first one.
And then he was in Aliens. Game over, man.
Yeah, it's in our intro.
Exactly. Anyway, they fly closer to the water and lose radar. Jenny takes apart one of the door handles and uses it to pry away at the wood covering the windows. Arias and Bennett have another back and forth. Bennett tells him that Matrix is going to kill him whether Jenny's alive or dead, and that Bennett's the only thing that stands in the way of that.
Bennett's really confident in himself.
Super confident. Maybe it's the Australian in him. The plane lands, and Matrix is in an inflatable raft in his underwear surrounded by an arsenal. He makes it to land and suits up for war.
See, I was going to say that might have been the slowest part of the movie after our break, was him just rowing to the shore.
Yeah. It's fine, though, because you know exactly what's coming.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, that was your breather, right?
But it wasn't even, boring. It's kind of it's just building anticipation. After making landfall, he scouts the island and preps his attack.
Don't forget that he suits up and paints down.
Yep. Well, I said, suits up for war.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Henry's body is discovered on the flight from the beginning. Arias gets the call that Matrix is not on the plane and orders Bennett to kill Jenny. And my next note just says, let the murder begin! Matrix kills everybody and blows up everything. Bennett discovers that Jenny has escaped and runs after... I'm not going into specifics about these action scenes, man. There's just way too much.
That's okay.
Because my next note says, more of Matrix exploding things and murdering people.
Can we just talk about the one scene where he goes into, the tool shed?
No, I'll get to it.
Okay, all right.
Cindy gets in touch with General Kirby. At this point, Matrix has killed the population of a small nation. He's now running out of ammo, hides in a garden shed. The shed is surrounded and destroyed by bullets, but Matrix is fine, and he kills the gunmen and takes their weapons. Do you want to talk about those deaths?
I mean, the dude's throwing saw blades.
Circular saw blades, just whipping them around.
With exact precision. He's hitting every target. There's not a missed throw in this.
There's a wicked shot of him cutting off that dude's arm, though.
And then, before that happens, you had 5 guys surrounding the shed or so. I don't know if it was 5, but a bunch of guys.
Something like that. Maybe even more.
And they unload so many shots into that shed. And not even one stray bullet nicked him? Guy doesn't even come out with, a scratch.
No, he doesn't at all. He doesn't really get hurt that much in this movie.
No, he doesn't.
But, did you read any of the trivia about edited scenes with the arm removal?
No.
Apparently, in the script, when he cuts the guy's arm off,
yeah,
he grabs it and then hits the guy with it.
What? And they took that out?
Yeah, and then I guess there is a version that was filmed where he just kind of throws it at the guy. But they thought it was too dark.
Man, I would have gone even further with it. I would have had that guy pick up one of the saw blades that was thrown at one of the other ones. And then when John cuts the hand off, the hand is still holding a saw blade, and then he throws that hand with a saw blade into another guy. Like, this is Arnold. Just go all out.
It's so ridiculous. You could do anything here. At this point, you just have to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
Bennett is still chasing Jenny. Matrix kills even more people. He has not been hit once, despite being in the open. Their aim is worse than that of blind stormtroopers.
Yep.
Next, we get a prolonged shootout between Matrix and Arius. Arius is shot with all of the bullets and falls out of a window dead. And then, which I still can't believe, after Bennett catches Jenny, he actually shoots Matrix.
Yeah.
Granted, it's in the arm, sure, but he takes a fucking bullet.
Well,
Before then, the only damage we've seen him take is from being thrown by a grenade. And it's like a scratch on his head, and then I think he gets some shrapnel in his stomach.
Dude is in the back of a cop car that gets hit by a rocket launcher, or a cop wagon, and doesn't even come out with a bruise.
A what wagon?
A police wagon.
All right, okay.
Not biting.
Fuck. All right. But yeah, no, like I mean, we knew that there was going to be a decent showdown between Bennett and Matrix. Like, even if this is the first time we saw this movie, this formula's been used time and time again. This is not an original idea or a one-shot use. The one thing I do find strange, though, is that somehow we're supposed to believe that Matrix is smart enough to play mind games and convinces Bennett to let Jenny go and fight him man-to-man.
I don't know. Like, I think that they planted the seed for that pretty early, in that even the first time he sees Bennett wants revenge for being kicked out of the group, and he constantly makes comments, not just about being kicked out, but that he's better than Matrix, right? Like, they really...
No, you're misunderstanding me. I'm not saying Bennett's smart. I'm saying Matrix isn't smart and shouldn't be able to play mind games with anybody.
I was defending the writing in general, in that they built up some backstory to why Bennett's arrogance would get the better of him there.
Yeah, okay. You want to talk about quality of writing? We'll get to that soon.
I said I was trying. Now you're trying my patience.
You don't have patience, kid. Moving on, we get a pretty decent knife fight, which never really happens in movies. No, this was a good knife fight. Sorry, let me rephrase. Fuck you, this was a great knife fight.
Yeah, I'm not buying it. I don't believe Bennett had any chance against Arnold.
Both injure each other, and after a lengthy fight including pipes, fire, and electrocution, Matrix kills Bennett by throwing a massive pipe through his torso and impaling him on a steam pipe. Sandro, say the line.
No.
Say the line.
No, I did it last time.
This is the only other time. This is the biggest line in the movie. You have to.
Why don't you let off some steam?
Close enough. I'll take it. Well done. Kirby and his men have arrived on the beach. He's approached by Matrix, who's carrying his daughter. Kirby offers Matrix a job, and Matrix ends the movie with the line, "No chance." Cue the music. He and Jenny get into the plane with Cindy and fly off, and roll credits.
I gotta say, the song that plays here, I forget what it's called exactly, like Fight for Love or whatever.
Sure.
I forget what it
80s.
is. Probably the only good song in this movie, because I gotta say, I'm not normally a guy that talks about soundtracks in movies unless it's like really, really good, right?
Yeah.
The soundtrack in this movie sucked.
It was really bad, right?
It was so bad. And like, not to say that it in and of itself is bad, but like the first song you see at the beginning of the movie when John is like coming through with the tree trunks has almost like a Sound of the Orient influence to it. Like, it's almost got like those pipes and stuff like.
It's the pan flute, man.
Yeah,
pan flute
it's the pan flute.
So out of place.
And like the song itself is fine, but it doesn't fit at all with the movie and what we're seeing. And that seems to be a running trend for the entire movie. The music never fits. except for this one song. And I'm not saying that it's necessarily a good song, although I love cheesy 80s action movie songs.
Yeah.
But it's the only one that actually fits the movie.
Yes, I agree. It really does fit the film. It almost kind of hits you over the head because you're not used to like a full-on decent track like that. Like you said, it's mainly instrumentals that just kind of seem out of place. Like, it's weird. You get hit with a wicked visual and then some weird music, so you're like, yeah. Oh. It's like it takes away from what you're seeing on screen. But the movie's over, man.
What a ride. What a ride.
What a ride indeed. We had talked about the director before recording, Mark Lester. I didn't know he directed this because he directed one of my favorite movies, Class of 1984. I never pictured him as an action director, but here we are, having watched Commando, and Mark Lester directed one of my favorite action movies of all time.
Nice.
And the rating's a weird one. We got Jeph Loeb and Matthew Weisman. That's good right there. But we also have Stephen de Sousa. Have you heard that name? Do you remember hearing that name?
Come on, man. Writers, I'm not going to know this stuff.
Okay. He's got a really interesting track record of wicked movies that slowly turn into god-awful sludge.
Okay.
And I made a list of a few.
Okay.
And these are in order of release, from oldest to most recent. And
Okay.
you'll see a degradation happen for sure. So
Okay.
we start off, 48 Hours. Fucking wicked movie. The Running Man. Awesome. Bad Dreams. Great. Die Hard. Great. Die Hard 2. Keep it coming. Hudson Hawk. Alright, I enjoyed it. The Flintstones. Ugh. Beverly Hills Cop 3. Gross. Street Fighter.
Ooh.
Judge Dredd.
Ugh.
Knockoff. It's bad. It gets pretty bad. And that's select movies from his writing career. I left out some gems. I left out some other stinkers too, man. But what a weird turn in quality.
I don't know.
Can you guess the budget of the movie?
Estimated 10 million.
Yeah, 9 to 10. Worldwide gross?
57 million.
57.5. You look this up. These aren't guesses.
Of course I looked it up.
What about
You cut out.
IMDb?
You,
What about the ratings?
rating? No, I have no idea. What are the ratings?
IMDb 6.7.
Too low.
I agree. Rotten Tomatoes, tomato meter, the critics gave it a 71.
I'll accept that.
Yeah. Audience score, exact same as IMDb, 67%.
What?
People find that weird.
People don't know what they're doing.
It's one of the best Arnold movies ever released.
No, it's maybe
In my opinion. Let me clarify. In my opinion.
It's like top 10.
Okay. Wow, this flew by, man. I feel bad. I enjoyed this movie so much. I flew through the plot. My apologies.
No, this might like go down as one of our shortest episodes, but it's because, like you mentioned, it's pretty surface level, and there isn't a lot of deep dive into this. Like,
No, it's not.
You come into this for one reason, and that's what you get, and it stays on the surface level, but that's the purpose, and that's what they deliver. So
And we do have to keep in mind that a lot of this movie you can only enjoy visually. Some of the action set pieces are out of this world and take up the majority of the third act of the movie.
yeah, and I mean that's why the plot went by so quickly. Is you know, you don't touch on all the scenes of him taking out a small country's worth of enemies on the island, but when doing that visually, it's much longer because it is quite a bit of combat and action. You just can't really go over that verbally. So, you know, It is what it is. Do we want to dive into the awards?
Yeah, I'm curious. I think you will disagree with mine, but I can justify them.
That's okay. All right. Oh, okay. Well, why don't we get into it? All right. What did you have for worst performance?
Dan Hedaya as Arias.
Really? I cannot agree with you, sir.
I know that he's an amazing actor,
Okay.
and I found him very flat.
Okay.
I don't know if it was just poor casting for the role,
Okay.
but the role itself didn't really offer much, in my opinion. So I feel like they are good in getting such a solid actor, but not giving him anything to work with or grow with or even just play off of. They wasted him.
They did. But I wouldn't say he was the worst because they didn't really utilize him. And what they did, he was just fine. He wasn't exceptional, but he was just fine.
But he's better than fine. He's like Log from Ren and Stimpy. He's better than bad. He's good.
Okay, I mean, but I'm not giving him worst. That's not gonna happen.
Who's your worst?
Ray Dawn Chong as Cindy.
Fuck you.
No, not a chance, man. Like, if you go back and you look at and I think I feel like I've been saying this in so many recent episodes, but the few points of emotional weight, which are generally panic on her part, are delivered so over the top that they don't even fit like 80s action over the top.
Oh, what the fuck is subdued in this movie?
None of it, but I'm just saying, like, her, especially like when she's freaking out about her car and being kidnapped, like, I'm not buying a single second of it.
You are so wrong.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
No, this is like smelling chips. I'm right.
Okay, let's talk about smelling chips, because I don't care that I came out on the bottom of that poll. Smelling chips is fucking weird, and you shouldn't do it.
Sure, but the poll was very heavily in my favor, and I'm confident that this will be the same case.
No, you're wrong.
Yep.
And that's why Ray Dawn Chong is my selection for best performance.
You are dead wrong on that, man. Not a chance.
Nope.
How do you justify that? Let's hear it.
Okay, well, in comparison, how about that?
Okay.
The only person who could even come close to touching her for best performance is fucking what's his name who played Sully.
Yeah, what was his name? David Patrick Kelly.
Yeah, because Arnold, his acting sucked. His line delivery was terrible.
Oh yeah, but you're not watching this for his, like, I don't know, like, acting prowess, I guess.
You mean his performance?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not picking Arnold as best either.
Vernon Wells was up and down the entire movie, and that wasn't his character. He was just a weak performance at that point. Dan Hedaya, no fucking way. Alyssa Milano, no.
I mean, you said it yourself. Alyssa Milano does absolutely fantastic for her parts.
Yeah, which is next to nothing.
And that was the point that I was just about to make, but she's not in it enough to really say, like, that, you know, she carried the movie or anything like that.
Who did you pick? Bill Duke?
No, I had Dan Hedaya.
You're fine.
And I the main reason that I had Dan Hedaya is because, like you said with Bennett, every character has a lot of ups and downs in this.
Yeah, but he doesn't have any ups.
But he also doesn't have any downs.
The whole thing's down.
Nah, you're wrong. You're always wrong.
I'm not wrong.
Listen, this is not your genre. This is my field house. And you're wrong. Dead wrong.
Fuck you.
All right, you just got your...
This is not your wheelhouse.
This is my wheelhouse. You just got your hand chopped off by a saw blade.
All right, go smell some chips, asshole.
Yeah, well, the majority agreed with me on that poll.
God damn it.
I don't think we've ever been this hostile to one another.
I don't think so.
But I mean,
fuck you.
it's bound to happen when you're such a movie guy and you're so dead on most of the time, and then you're so dead wrong here.
I'm just gonna let that slide.
All right, man. Well, what is your most memorable or favorite line?
It's not my favorite, but it is my most memorable, and that is John Matrix let off some steam, Bennett.
I mean, it's definitely up there, but it's not mine. And
It's not your most memorable or your favorite? Because it's definitely not my favorite, but like you mentioned that line to anybody who's watched action movies. They're like, Commando.
For me, and again, I have no problem with that line. It's absolutely a fine pick. But like for me, I've seen this movie many times, right? So before you even mentioned like any of the awards or anything like that, actually just go back to when you said we're going to be doing Commando next week. The line that came to my mind and is still the one that is to me the most memorable was, "Don't disturb my friend, he's dead tired." And that is because, like, since I was a kid, that is the line that I've always remembered.
All right, that's fine. It's a good line.
There's a handful of lines that you could easily pick, and every one of them would have a perfectly fine, like, justification for why. But I'm taking this very literally in that, to me, that is the line that always comes up first when I think of this movie. So therefore, it's the most memorable to me.
Yeah, and that's why I chose mine too.
Yeah.
Not my favorite, but definitely the most memorable.
For me, it's also not my favorite, but it is the one that comes to my mind first.
Yeah.
My favorite actually takes place in my favorite moment/scene, which I go first on, I think.
Yep.
And the reason that I didn't take this line for the best line is because I love the overarching scene of the Sully death scene.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
Like, there is an argument to be made that the, I lied whole segment is, amongst the best lines. But to me, it's the entire scene. The visual of him holding him above the cliff, the back and forth banter, that little bit of plea of yeah, that's right, you did, like almost like you're giving Sully a little bit of hope. But then it also comes like back wrapped around when he walks over and Cindy asks him, like, what happened? And he very casually says, I let him go. Like, the whole scene, it's almost like it's unfair to take any of those as the best line because they work so well together to make such a tight scene.
Yeah, it all does come together very well. That's very well crafted.
So what was your most memorable moment or scene?
When I think of this movie, there's two things that immediately come to mind. One is the setting of the mall. And that, like, me, I love 80s nostalgia. I fucking love it. And there's nothing more 80s than that mall. But my most memorable scene is all of the gun store. I always remember that. I remember the bulldozer crashing through. I remember them showing every single gun. I remember the jokes. It's a good back and forth between Radon Chong and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, it's just fun. And it's so ridiculous and so over the top, which is exactly what this movie is. Like, this is one of the most 80s popcorn movies I've ever seen. And I feel like my sentiments for the movie as a whole are focused entirely in this one scene. Like, everything else is so much fun. It's so enjoyable. Even the bad parts are good. The bad acting is good. I say worst performance, Dan Hedaya. I still love Dan Hedaya. It's just, if you're going to pick bad parts, it's like, I can't really pick a bad thing. It's more like what's not as good as the rest. But this movie, and best scene, most memorable scene to me. I fucking love it.
Okay. I mean, that's a very lengthy scene, but it's yours. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
it's not that lengthy, really, man, when you look at it. It's more so like busting into the store and then like the snap zooms on everything they're doing within.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. I mean, maybe it feels longer to me because they're essentially doing a montage of them shopping in there. Like, they even show them going through the aisles with shopping carts before they get into that back room. So
yeah, it's great. It's awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Again, you're not wrong. Like, there's no wrong answer,
I know.
I think. All right, man. Calm down. All right? So you were wrong a couple of times. You don't have to let it linger with you forever.
Watch yourself.
So those are our awards. If the listeners have their choices, we would absolutely love to hear them. We always love to hear from you. Let us know. We're on social media. But before I run through all of that list, Not that it's well hidden by any means. But Ben, what is your final recommendation for the movie?
I love this, man. There's no secret here how we feel about this. This movie's just too much fun. It's a fucking gem of an action movie that everybody should watch. I don't care. It's not one of those movies I'm gonna be like, you should watch it with your friends, with a couple of beers. Like, watch it at home with like a cup of tea. Like, enjoy your bland tea and toast. Watch a really fun movie because there is no bad time to watch this film. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, like, I kind of just have to answer systematically to go through the points of our podcast, I guess. But it's pretty clear that I love this movie, that I do recommend it. To force myself to come up with an answer, I guess if you're looking for Shakespearean acting, or if you don't like action movies, I guess stay away from it. But beyond that, like, yeah, absolutely watch this movie in any scenario at any time. Like, if you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor and check it out at least once.
So much fun.
Yeah, even if you're like a huge skeptic like I am for the most part, there's something for everybody in this movie, and if you can't enjoy it by yourself, then you'll probably enjoy it with friends. Like, I don't know. It is an all-encompassing example of what 80s action movies were, right?
It's a time capsule of awesome.
Yeah, it's got every element that you would want from it, and there is a lot of stuff you have to suspend disbelief on. But I mean, you're not going to watch a movie like this expecting it to be like true to life.
I know, right? You go for Arnold, but you stay for pan flute.
I mean, that's if you're the kind of person who can't watch a movie if the music isn't perfect, then yeah, maybe you're the one person that shouldn't watch this movie.
Oh, if you're looking for perfection, fucking stay away. It's just so much fun, though.
All right. So before I ask you the final question, I guess I'll just remind everybody, social media. We are on Twitter at BS Bargain Bin. We are on YouTube. We don't have our custom URL yet. Hopefully we keep getting subscribers. A few are kind of slowly trickling in, but just, search BS Bargain Bin. If you're checking it out on one of those already and you just want it on a podcast service, we're also on anchor.fm/BS Bargain Bin. So that just leaves one thing left for us, really, and that's to find out, Ben, what are we watching next week, sir?
Next week, we are watching 1999's Idle Hands.
So I came all the way over here. You said you was holding.
I didn't say what I was holding.
Anton Tobias never had much on his mind.
Don't you think you should have, like, a goal?
My dream life would be to lie around all day in bed and watch TV while some hot broad delivers me food.
And he always had time on his hands.
4 bodies have been discovered, and the killer is still at large.
Until one of them got a mind of its own.
I have no control over my hand. It makes him do things I don't want him to do.
Aren't you a little old for Ding Dong Ditch?
Sorry about your bush.
I'm gonna call 911. What's the number?
I'm not the killer.
Okay. I mean, if OJ could get off, then I'm sure. You there?
Now, his hand won't stop.
I don't want to hurt you. Don't! Ew, that's disgusting.
His friends won't die.
You're dead. Undead, actually. And there was this big bright white light at the end of a long tunnel.
So what happened?
We were like, forget that, man. It's too far.
And the only way to stop it
Idle hands are the devil's playpen, so I'll keep my hands occupied, right?
is to keep it busy.
Freeze!
Drop the knitting needles. That's probably not a good idea.
Put him down!
Cuff me!
Put those needles down, young man! Down!
Cuff me!
Columbia Pictures presents
The police have no leads, and the killer is still out there.
You scream like a girl.
the comedy
Careful, it's on kind of loose. That's really starting to get on my nerves.
that dares to give scary movies
Look at me! I'm in the face!
the backhand.
What you doing, man? That's my dad. Come on.
CPR, man. I saw him Baywatch. Did you lose something there, bud?
Idle Hands. The touching story of a boy and his hand.
Kinky.
Fly for a white guy.
All right. Until then, have a good one, guys.
All the best, guys.